What's up, guys? It's episode 33 of the Salty Dog Podcast. I'm Clash, he's Dookie, and welcome.
What's up? Is 33 like an unlucky number or something?
I feel like it. I don't know. Like 13's a bad number. This is there's threes in this one.
Some threes, yeah.
So we had some technical difficulties at the start of this show. Thanks for everybody who's hanging out with us live and helped us get through it. I'm hoping everything's working now.
Should be. I will be surprised if it's not.
Okay, well, just holler if anything's wrong. But anyway, how have you been, Dookie?
Golly gee, I've just
world
been
of Hearthstone.
I've played like a little bit of Hearthstone since the nerfs. I mean, I'm excited to get in there and like see what things are looking like, because it's probably just gonna be Warlock and then everything else. But I feel like maybe some decks that maybe some homebrews can rise to the top. So I'm excited to try some of those out.
This is going to be an extra salty episode for me because I've been messing with the meta a bit since the nerfs went live, and I'm still just not happy with it at all, to be perfectly honest.
Cool.
There is a ton of Warlock, and it's super demoralizing. Like, what happened to me earlier today, Skull of Minari on turn 5 into free Void Lord into turn 6, cube the Void Lord into Dark Pact the cube, and you're looking at a turn 6 double Void Lord 3 Void Walker turn, which is like,
yeah,
how do you deal with that?
It is not fair.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. Like, every deck that is a great deck right now just does stuff that makes you say, that's just not fair. Like, if you hit certain things at certain times, high roll those things, the game becomes unwinnable from that point. Spiteful decks hit their Mind Control or their Ultimate Infestations and get Tyrantus or Deathwing or something insane like that, and that's like on turn 5 or 6, and you're like, how do I actually deal with this with like a fair deck? Like
yeah. This nerf honestly might have made things worse.
I don't know. I mean, it's definitely improved certain things, like Shotgun / Raza Priest, whatever you want to call it, was certainly a demoralizing deck to play against too. But these other decks are just still running rampant, totally unchecked. Mage has so much face damage that, like, basically if you're building a deck, you need to keep certain things in mind. It's like Secret Mage with all their face damage and like their incredible tempo turns. They have really good tempo with that deck. Then you've got the Warlocks, which just put up like almost impenetrable walls with endless Void Walker or Void Lords. And then you've got like the Spiteful decks that just hit insane minions on turn 6, and it's just like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah. I don't have the answer.
Yeah.
Well, you're supposed to be able to play counter spells on your opponent's turn, because that's all. Because everything, it's just exactly what Hearthstone doesn't like, what the developers don't like. It's things that you have no opportunity to react to. So yeah, we saw this coming.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't, like, honestly, I don't feel like the nerfs improved the meta at all. There's not a lot of room for creativity that's been opened up. There's not a bunch of new archetypes that have been opened up. Just certain archetypes that were already a thing just gained a better position, being that other decks got weakened. You've got the aggro paladins are still, wreaking havoc. You've got the Secret Mage, the Spiteful decks, and the Warlocks, and that's pretty much all that you can realistically play. I mean, there's some Jade Druid going around too with, the double Ultimate Infestation sort of build where you just have to like armor up past all the damage that people can deal to you. But I don't know.
While we're talking about before we get too far into the meta news here, and while we're still talking about our week,
yes.
I think it is worth mentioning that it's your Twitch channel
right.
have reached Twitch affiliate.
Oh yes, that is true. That's something to not be salty about. It's
no,
pretty great.
Stoked.
After our last gameplay stream that we did on Tuesday, I got the official invite for affiliate, so thanks for everybody who always comes out and watches. It means a lot. It was really cool getting set up, and if I'm not mistaken, we actually just got some of our first subs, so thank you.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
Tacky on Railgun, Dougie, Katie Plays, and Lekman. That's awesome of you guys. We really appreciate it.
Yep,
I really appreciate it, especially.
Yep, shout outs to those folks. DJ Fresh, he got first.
He did. So shout out to DJ. Thanks for the first sub, man.
So if you're listening to us on the the VODs or the audio, if you ever want to check out the stream, we now have, we will very soon have a custom emote available, and you're able to sub to this channel to get that emote. The emote is made. It's done.
Yes, it is. I just have not had time to implement it, so you guys will have the very special emote that I'm sure nobody expects very soon.
Yeah, it's totally, it has nothing to do with the bed.
Not at all. So yeah, this is a special episode for that reason, so thank you guys very much.
But yeah,
now back to bitching about Hearthstone. No.
Yeah, now let's complain some more.
No, it just playing on ladder is just really, like, this week I was really excited because I almost like wanted to have that feeling like when a new expansion comes out and I'm like, yeah, I get to make my own decks and go try experiment with things, but it feels like a clown fiesta out there to me. It's just like, oh wow, okay, so you're just gonna have 2 3/9s, like 9 mana 3/9s and 3 1/3 taunts all on turn 6. Okay,
yep,
you do that.
Yep, and then they N'Zoth them. Yep, and then they Gul'dan them.
Yep,
and
yeah.
It's just like everyone needs a mass to spell. Like I don't even know. Like it's fucked up. It's just fucked up. But anyway, why don't we get into some more exciting news?
Yes,
if there is any.
Yeah, I mean this is kind of we're kind of getting to that like the doldrums of the in between X packs time. But we do have some cool things to talk about, though. There's some things that they've said are coming out soon. We have an event coming up in a little less than 2 weeks for Arena, and some new Fireside Brawl stuff going on. So we'll just hop over to the news segment before we just spend the whole show complaining about Warlock.
What's happening?
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
Time is money, friend. Keep it quick, kid. I ain't got all day.
All right. So, you want to walk us through some new stuff that's coming out?
Absolutely. So, as we said before, the probably the biggest piece of relevant news to active players is that the nerfs are live. Patches, Raza, Corridor Creeper, Bonemare. Was that it? I think that was it. All got nerfed.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, did you say Bonemare?
Said Bonemare.
Okay. Yeah.
So just a couple decks that we've seen actually able to hit Legend. And this is not an exhaustive list, but this is just ones we have evidence of, courtesy of Disguised Toast. Mm-hmm. Murloc Paladin can still cut it. Secret Mage, as you might have guessed. Big Priest, which I'm guessing that's the Spiteful Priest, right?
No, actually they are different things. I've still personally been seeing way more Spiteful Priest. I don't know if it's just because people find that deck to be fun to play or what, but the Big Priest is the one that like consistently somehow gets Barnes on 4 into statue and then just endlessly resurrects it over and over again, or Lich King or Ysera or any of those.
So good for them. And then and of course Warlock's doing just fine and dandy. Yeah. So, if you want to shoot for Legend after these nerfs, these are some decks to try. Mm-hmm. But other than that, we'll just be sitting here complaining. So, on to more exciting things.
Correct.
So I got really excited when I read this news headline. This tag team 2v2 Fireside Brawl.
Yeah, this sounds really cool. Yeah.
It does. Did you read about it? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, it's not as cool as it sounds in my opinion, but basically, if you go to a Fireside gathering in the near future here, I don't actually have the dates up, but I think it's this month, or it's the first one this year, basically. Mm-hmm. So, you'll be on a team with another player, and each player plays on one device, because Hearthstone obviously doesn't have the interface set up to have two people playing against two other people simultaneously, because they aren't into, you know, changing their interface. So, you know, but anyway, so the first player on each team gets to choose a pre-constructed deck from one of the 9 classes. Then when a player is defeated, their teammate tags in and discovers the next deck from the classes and carries on with the match. So it's kind of like just two people playing Hearthstone and then 2 more people playing Hearthstone, but there will probably, I mean, there obviously will be some overlap there, so you could strategically, like, you know, plan, like, if you just lost, you could pick a deck that you think is gonna, you know, push you to victory. I don't know. It's kind of a weird format, but it's still cool. Like, the fact that they have put their foot in the co-op door.
Yeah. I think I think that's the silver lining to the whole thing. I mean, I do think it sounds cool. Like, in a perfect world, like, I'm sitting there, you know, like, picturing, you know, you and me at a fireside gathering, like, swapping off on one phone and just, like, having a good time with it or whatever. What's realistically probably going to happen, though, because everybody's going to want to participate in the brawl for whatever reward it's going to give, is people are just going to play all the decks themselves because it's going to be on one device.
Well, no, I think you have to go to a fireside.
You do, but once you're there, nothing's saying you have to swap off with anyone.
Well, hopefully the people running it will be like, hey, like, I don't know, hopefully you have to, like, register and be like, all right, here's my team. There's 2 of us, I promise. But
yeah. No, I'm just saying, like, it would be
like,
cool if you could play on your own device and it was somehow, like, dialed in that way. But I mean, maybe it's something they're at least looking into.
Yeah, I mean, maybe both players will have to, like, accept the match, you know, invite or something.
I think that'll be important because if it's only going to count for the live person who's like the live device, like the person who owns that device, if participating in the brawl only counts for that person, then people aren't going to like it because they're going to want it to count for their account as well, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
no,
I mean,
that makes sense.
Yeah. So hopefully you do have to, like, accept it in some 4-way, you know, way, like, from your devices. Yeah. Like, you know, like I don't know how, like, what the logistics of it would be, but I just see how, like, I foresee how it playing out. Like, let's just play, like, all 9 classes ourselves so that everyone can pair off and all get what they want from it. So
if that happens, if I go to one of these and I have a partner and I play someone that doesn't have a partner and they lose and they're, like, gonna switch off, I'm gonna be like, where's your partner, bitch? Go get where's your partner? And if they don't have one, I'm gonna be like, hey, person running this person doesn't have a partner, but they're doing the tag team brawl. How does that work? I'm confused.
There you go. Everyone just self-police the 2v2 Fireside Brawl. But no, I mean, it's interesting. It's very Hearthstone, you know, in, like, this, like, hey, we did the best we can kind of way.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that the fact that they have their foot in the in the co-op door,
right,
is a good sign. I mean, they already kind of did with those tavern brawls where you're taking down a boss with your opponent.
Yeah, and those are, like, the most fun to me. Well, some of the most fun. Yeah.
But this is true 2v2. Like, this is actually advertised as that. So maybe this will open the door for more of that kind of thing in the future, which I think would be really cool because, like, you know, we both love Hearthstone, but you and I don't get to, like, team up, you know?
No,
like,
there's no such thing as teaming up.
Like, we don't, like, unless it's the rare occasion where it's one of those tavern brawls. But it'd be so fun if you and I could play against 2 other people.
Definitely, especially because we both stream gameplay and we both like Hearthstone. But when we stream gameplay of Hearthstone, one of us is just bored, right? Because only one person can play this game. I think that out of all of the different, like, you know, modes that have been suggested for Hearthstone, tournament mode, like, being probably the top, like, most suggested thing, I think the thing it needs the most is a co-op mode.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's really lacking, because then you can have like some, co-op streams. You can have just people who enjoy playing card games together can actually experience that. So yeah, it is cool to see like maybe what is hopefully just the beginning of some more co-op focus for the game.
It's like they're held back by the interface, because if you take something like Magic the Gathering or any physical card game, I mean, you can line up as many people on a table as you want.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just, your play space is just in front of you. But the Hearthstone game board is just, is what it is. And they haven't ever changed it. So
yeah,
it's just limited by that at this point.
Yeah, I agree. And like, I think that it's probably a lot of work or whatever. It's probably like a ton of development, and hopefully maybe it's something that they think about doing in the future, but they would have to design a new game board for a true co-op, like from different devices thing. Like you'd have to have like 2 hero portraits somewhere on that board. And I know that probably the thing that's holding them back the most is the fact that it needs to be compatible with mobile.
Yeah.
If this was a PC-only game, I'm sure that we would have way more modes at this point. But Hearthstone, at the end of the day, is more so a mobile game than it is like a competitive PC game, which is always what it comes down to when you're talking about why don't we have this or that. That's usually the reason.
All right, so idea brewing in my head right now.
Let's hear it. Let's have it.
I'm just gonna go.
Okay.
So they don't need to change the actual field as far as how many minions can be on the field.
Okay.
That can stay the same. But you've got 2 hero portraits on each side, which, that doesn't seem too difficult for them to, I'm sure their graphic designer could do that in a day. And, 2 heroes, 2 hero powers, a deck on each side for each player.
Okay.
And each player has a hand of cards from their deck. And players go in, like let's say it's me and you and Jim and Bob.
Okay.
So I go, then Jim goes, then you go, then Bob goes.
Then you go, then Jim goes.
Yeah,
got it.
And the mana could the mana would probably need to stay. Like I've got one. I think everyone would need to have 1 mana the entire round, and then it goes up to 2 mana. So like I go and Jim goes and you go and Bob goes and we all have 1 mana.
Right. Yeah, that only makes sense because
yeah. And then the next turn everyone's got 2 mana.
Right.
And then so that way the field can still only hold 7. You don't have to change that. You don't have to have some crazy zoomed out like field, but 4 people get to play and synergize off of what the other person is doing.
Right,
so,
but like who attacks with whose minions and positioning and like that stuff all matters too.
You'll get an attack if it's during your turn you would get an attack phase.
Right, but do you attack with only minions that you've played, and does it matter where they're positioned? Like as far as if one of your minions was like pushed all the way over to your opponent, like to your partner's side of the board or something? Like,
I would say you can only attack with minions you've played.
Okay.
And then as far as positioning, whatever happens. You don't want to fuck yourself over. You don't want to fuck your opponent, your teammate over.
Right.
So I don't know.
Interesting.
Literally just thought of that, but that's what I would do.
All
and
right.
maybe you could even limit. Maybe people could draw less cards, or no, I don't know. No. Anyway, these are my musings.
Ben Brode, if you're listening, we're both available for hire. We can get this started. Ideas like this, just like firing off, just like immediately.
And then you would share a 60 health pool.
Okay.
How you like them apples?
I think it's good. Print it. Let's go. Blizzard, please hire us. All right. So anyway, the Fireside Brawl, yeah, it's should be fun. I mean, if you don't have Nemzi yet, go to the Fireside Brawl, do a 2v2, get her. She's fun.
Yeah,
she's fun.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna try to hit up a brawl or a Fireside, just to try this 2v2 and to get Nemzi. Even though I don't like Warlock and I don't like Gnomes, but, you know.
Well, you know, Dempsey is just... I feel the same way, honestly, about both of them, but I really enjoy playing Dempsey over Gul'dan. Like, I feel like she's such, like, a little troll character, and I'm so sick of Gul'dan at this point that I'm just like... Yeah. If I'm going to play Warlock, I'm going to play Dempsey.
Yeah, I feel you. Gul'dan's just, like, such a G, you know?
He is a G, but I'm so sick of him because he's just trouncing me over and over with broke-ass decks.
I know what you mean. Like, I'm super sick of a lot of the heroes. Like, I'll play the alternate one just because I'm sick of the main one.
Right, yeah. I still don't even have Morgul, so I still use Thrall, but... I feel
we need to get you Morgul, all right?
Yeah.
Now that we have an online presence, I'm sure it would not be difficult for us to recruit a friend.
Right.
So we should tweet out that link and see if anybody who has not yet signed up for Hearthstone would like to get our boy a Murloc hero.
I'll probably never use it, but I still want it. Thank you. All right, all right, let's talk about Wildfest.
Yeah, Wildfest.
All right, what's Wildfest?
Why? Well, it's apparently they're like, we're gonna celebrate Wild, and you know, for those of you that are new to the game, Wild is the format where all cards that have ever been printed are allowed, not printed because it's not a real game, not a real physical game, but all the cards in existence are allowed, and it's kind of always felt like it was sort of swept under the rug because Standard, well, first of all, the name Standard makes it sound very like this is the real way.
Oh, that's very much the, like, you know, public opinion of Wild, is that Wild doesn't really matter.
Yeah. So considering the nerfs we just got, two of them being nerfs specifically intended for Wild, Raza and Patches, and the fact that this Wildfest thing is coming, I think Blizzard is trying to make it clear that they want to show some love to Wild and acknowledge it as a legitimate format. So Wildfest is going to be from February 19th to March 11th, so almost a whole month of this. So starting February 19th, all arenas will be Wild. So all cards that you can choose from are going to be from all sets, from all time. And
just like
if you have an arena run going, it will be retired in place of the for a Wild arena. So make sure you finish up your arena runs before February 19th.
No, actually, let me interject here really quickly. This is a fun way to hack the game a little bit and get a little bit of free stuff. When there's something happening with arena that's going to retire your run, you don't want to finish your arena. What you want to do is say you start an arena on February 18th, get as many wins as you can with that thing until you get 2 losses, right? Because you don't want to risk losing the next game and getting kicked out, like, you know, getting your rewards or whatever, unless you intend on starting another one that day as well. Just get as far as you can, 4 or 5 wins, whatever, 4 wins, 2 losses, stop there. Let the arena expire on the 19th, like forcibly expire. It'll give you the rewards that you would have gotten if you had stopped there. So like say you went 4 and 3, you'll get those same awards and a free arena ticket because they ended your run before you finished it. So then you get to start up a new arena run for free. That's how you do it.
Well, I'm assuming they're going to give everybody a free ticket regardless.
If they give you a free ticket, then you'll have 2 then. Because they give you one as a consolation for ending your run. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, assuming they do that this time, that's
how it's worked every other time when something forcibly ended your arena run.
Yeah. That's okay. All right. Change of plans. Don't finish your arena.
That's right. Get as far as you can with 2 losses and stop there. And then enjoy your free arena run.
So Wild arenas are coming back. And I think that's cool because I always felt like arena should be as far from the meta as possible. You know, just you're picking crazy random cards from all over the place, and you know, you and your opponent have these crazy cobbled together decks of weird stuff, and that's what makes it fun.
I'm super stoked for this. Honestly, I think you and I were both like more so on the arena should stay Wild train, or they should at least allow you to choose Wild when you go into arena.
Yeah.
If you want to. So I'm really looking forward to this.
There's no meta, you know? There's no arena meta.
There are certain cards that, like, you are just auto picks in arena, but of course there's no guarantee that you'll get them.
Some cards are better than others, but that's just apply, you know, there's no pre-constructed arena, so
no. It
doesn't matter what's available because it's all available to everyone.
Right.
But anyway, so that's happening. Wild arenas. Another thing, there's going to be 2 wild tavern brawls during this time period, the February 9th to March 11th. I don't know if that's 2 weeks. It seems like more than 2 weeks, but 2 tavern brawls sounds like 2 weeks. So, we'll see how they do it. But
well, maybe they'll just be like normal tavern brawls in between or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first one they're going to do is called Venture into the Wild, and that one is just a pre-constructed wild tavern brawl. So you just choose a class, and they're just going to hand you a pre-constructed deck for that class, and you just play your opponent with that, and you know that's it. The way they kind of worded this on the official Blizzard site was they were like, "This is for anybody, even if you're new to Hearthstone. This is a great way to jump in because your deck's built for you." You know?
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Great.
Yeah. So what that amounts to is like on those days where I'm feeling like really lazy and I just want a free pack, I can just like click a couple times and be in a game and then win eventually and get a free pack.
Exactly.
But on days where I'm not feeling lazy, I'm gonna be like, man, I really wish I could like do something creative right now. So. And
then you won't be able to. No, then you make a wild deck. We're celebrating wild. Everyone should just rank ladder and wild for that period of time. Honestly, I feel like wild is like, I mean, it's cool that they're doing these things, and there's a couple more things that they're still doing, but I don't think wild's going to be taken seriously unless they start hosting wild tournaments, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, and like more rewards for people who do high ladder finishes in wild. Like, until that happens, I just don't think that anyone's gonna care.
Yeah, I agree. It's like they're raising wild awareness, you know?
Yeah, it's like,
oh, we're raising breast cancer awareness. It's like, yeah, but are you actually like raising money or doing anything to contribute to like research?
Everyone wear a green ribbon from February 19th to March 11th to remember wild.
I'm over here like, I fucking know wild exists, and I don't want to play it.
But that's the thing, though, is I want incentives to play it because I like wild, the meta is more diverse, and because we have been playing this game for so long, we have a wild collection. That's not something a lot of people can say. There's a lot of people who dust their old collections. There's a lot of people who started after these adventures and stuff had already rotated out. So, like, I have, like, a lot of wild cards, and I'd love to be able to use them. I mean, I can, but I just feel like it's no one cares. So that makes it to where I don't care.
It's a little bit of a catch-22, like, because wild is, like, for people who are G's like us who have been playing since the beginning.
Right.
And, like, who's gonna craft Dr. Boom, Sylvanas, Ragnaros, all these, you know, legendaries and epics and rares that are banished to wild when that's not even the format that people care about.
Exactly.
And the whole reason that standard was even created was to make the game more accessible to people and to keep the meta from being nonsense. But it's just like, I don't even know why they're like, it's almost like they're just justifying their decision to keep wild as a thing that exists by doing this.
Kind of.
And just being like, hey, wild exists. All right, back to standard.
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like to me, too. Like I said, I think the only thing that'll really bring legitimacy to the wild format is actual, like, Blizzard-hosted tournaments and, like, possibly even a second HCT Cup. One for standard and one for wild.
I'd love to watch a wild tournament, like, with pros. That would be nuts.
Yeah. I think that's really the only thing. But, hey, in the meantime, I'll enjoy some wild arena. Do you know what the Wild Brawl Salium? Have we talked about that? I don't think so.
Yeah, the Brawliseum, I think is what it's called.
Brawliseum.
So that's the other Wild Tavern Brawl that's coming out during Wild Fest, and this is the polar opposite of the Venture into the Wild Tavern Brawl. The Brawliseum is player constructed. You build your wild deck,
Okay.
It has an entry fee like Arena, and you play until 12 wins or 3 losses, just like Arena, against other people who have built their own decks and paid to enter and all that good stuff. So it's kind of like the heroic tavern brawl, except like the stakes aren't so insane. It's basically wild pre-constructed Arena, or wild constructed Arena.
Wild constructed Arena. So you're saying it's not the heroic tavern brawl because it's not as much to pay to get in, and your rewards aren't as good? Is that basically?
Yeah, the rewards are exactly the same as Arena awards would be. The win conditions are the same as Arena wins and loss conditions.
And the pay to enter is 150.
And the pay, yes, and the
Interesting.
admission.
I'm surprised they're not just doing another wild heroic brawl. That seems almost kind of weird to me.
Yeah, because this is almost exactly Wild Arena, except you just get to build your deck. So there's gonna be like a wild. I don't know. This is gonna be like Wild Ladder with like
with
betting.
Rewards. Yeah.
Yeah, like
this
gambling.
is their answer to what I was just saying, like incentivizing you to play constructed wild. This is exactly what this is.
So maybe they're maybe they're seeing if that's something that's gonna catch on.
Maybe they're testing the waters, seeing how many people sign up, seeing what decks get run, and how it's received by the community. Maybe they are testing out possibly hosting wild tournaments. Who knows?
Yeah. So that's Wildfest, and that's gonna be from February 19th to March 11th again.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking forward to some new flavor in your current Hearthstone,
old flavor,
some old flavor,
some old
like a fine wine aged to perfection. Then Wildfest is gonna be your jam.
Yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to it because, like I was just now saying, I'm like really sick of standard and can't see myself like, I just feel my heart has just like left standard right now. I can't take the abuse anymore on ladder. So
I'm like slightly more curious just because of the nerfs, and I want to like just make fun decks, but I know that I'm just gonna be shit on by every Q block
It's not just Q block, man. The mages are bullshit. The spiteful and big priests are bullshit. Everybody's bullshit.
This really brings me to an answer to one of our Q&A questions, which I believe is our next segment.
It is. So why don't we just roll right into it? What's the question?
So the question is from... Wait, let's pretend there's a Q&A intro. Dun, 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 dun.
Prepare yourself for the ultimate questions.
There you go. All right. So the first question is from Kaioya. This is actually the question I was referencing. What is your favorite feature or card effects from another card game that you'd like to see implemented in some form into Hearthstone?
Whoa, a serious question. All right, Kaioya.
I know. His example was some kind of... I didn't put it in my notes here, but his example was some kind of fusion creatures from Yu-Gi-Oh! I really don't know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh! But
yeah.
So obviously my answer is going to come from Magic. And because we're complaining about Warlock so much, I think that my feature or effect from Magic that I'd like to implement into Hearthstone would be instant spells that can be played during your opponent's turn.
Unfortunately, that's like never going to happen. But I know what you're saying.
So when they throw out that Void Lord, and then they cast Cube on it, you say, hold on, in response, I'm going to cast this spell that silences your Void Lord, or destroys it, or whatever, and then their Cube has a shitty target. Although I guess if it was silenced, it would summon a regular Void Lord.
Wait, what?
I guess, okay, if they cubed... Okay, let's think in Magic rules here. If they had a Void Lord out, they cubed it, and you responded to the cube with a silence.
You silenced the Void Lord?
Yes.
That wouldn't do anything. You would just prevent the first 3 Voidwalkers from being spawned. It would still spawn 2 regular Void Lords. But you could respond to Dark Pact targeting Cube.
You could silence the Cube in response to a pack.
Yes.
So this might be a little too much, but I'm going to say it anyway. So in Magic, certain spells have different speeds, 2 different speeds to be exact.
Technically 3, but that's okay.
You talking about split second?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they're the same speed as instants. They just can't be
Right.
But anyway, so in Magic there are sorceries and there are instants. Think of sorceries as spells in Hearthstone. You can only play them during your turn, and that's that.
Mm-hmm.
Instants, however, can be played during your opponent's turn, but only in response to something your opponent does. So, let's say your opponent played a Dust Devil. Let's say your opponent played a Dust Devil, and then the next turn your opponent goes to Rockbiter Weapon it. So let's say the card Lightning Bolt was an instant, and you go. So your opponent goes to Rockbiter. It's Dust Devil, but you say, in response, I'm going to Lightning Bolt your Dust Devil. Your Lightning Bolt actually resolves first and kills the Dust Devil before the Rockbiter weapon has a chance to take hold.
Which then also does what's called fizzling.
Right. The Rockbiter would fizzle. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, if your opponent's going to do something, you can respond to that by doing something first if you have an instant spell, because they are at instant speed and they're fast. But then your opponent could actually respond to your instant with an instant. And that's why Magic is a really complicated game.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my answer. What about you?
Yeah. Just going off of what you were saying. Yeah, I think that like people who I've talked to a lot of people who play Magic, and I've told them, yeah, I like to play Hearthstone, and they're like, why? And like the reasoning for that is always because of the no interactivity on your opponent's turn. You can't do anything. Hearthstone's just never going to do that, though, because it vastly complicates the game. Like, It doesn't seem like it would at first, but when you think about it, it really does. Like, the whole clean interface of just do what you want on your turn, take your time, send your minions where you want, that entire thing is just blown to bits if you add instants to the game.
Oh, yeah.
But it does add a lot of depth. And I do miss instant speed stuff, too. It's very cool.
The only reason I say this is because of Warlock right now. Normally I don't care, because Blizzard is like, oh, we see there's something that people are unable to respond to and is too overwhelmingly strong, that all happens in one turn. Let's fix it. And then they didn't fix it.
Yeah.
So other than that, I don't know. I'd really like something like First Strike for Magic to be in. That'd be pretty cool. Something like Pump minions, like spending mana to increase a minion's attack and health.
We've seen that with Forbidden Ancient. It didn't really see play, but it was 0 mana, but got +1/+1 for each mana crystal that was expended.
Right, but yeah. he was a one-time thing. Like in Magic, there are creatures you can have out where you can just spend mana when they're already out to make them stronger just for that turn.
You know what it could say is you could say when you attack with this minion, expend all of your remaining mana crystals and give it this much more attack. So you would have to plan your attacks on your turn, but if you wanted to cast certain things first, you'd have to do that before you attacked, because if you attacked first, they'd just get like +10 attack or whatever.
And then any excess mana goes to make that minion bigger. I like that. That's a good way to do it.
I wonder if they'll do that. But yeah, instance would be really cool. I don't think it's going to happen, but pumping, I think that's something they could do. For me, I've said it before, and I still want to see it. I want to see more stuff. Like, basically, the only example we have right now is Crystal Core. Global enchantment effects. So, once again, in Magic, we're talking a lot about Magic again, but so there are 2 different types of enchantments in Magic. One of them is called an enchant creature, and that's something like Velen's Chosen, Power Word Shield, Rockbiter Weapon. These are things that specifically target a minion and alter its stats and abilities. And that's the only type of enchantment that is present in Hearthstone, other than certain individual examples like Crystal Core and possibly even the Nether Portal from Lakari's Sacrifice. I wish that there was more effects like this, global enchantments that basically affect the entire way the game plays for the rest of the game. They don't have to be as insane and you know, like super like game busting as like Crystal Core is, but something that like you pay some mana and like for the rest of the game, this one interaction works differently, or like your minions are a little bigger, or your spells have spell power for the rest of the game, like +1 spell powers, stuff like that. Global enchantments.
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool. I think there would need to be a way to remove them. Just because there is in Magic.
I don't think so. Like, I mean, you can't remove Crystal Core, you know, and it's like kind of the entire point of the card.
Well, yeah, but those are like quest rewards. Those are like these big, like, you know, you've accomplished some drastic thing and now you get this reward. But if they were to make like some cheap, like, oh, all your shit has +1/+1, and by the way, you can never kill this.
Right. Well, hey, we already have that in the game. It's called Prince Keliseth. You just have to draw him on turn 2. But, like, no, I'm saying, like, you know, it doesn't have to be that insane. Like, I don't feel like a 4-mana mage spell that gives your spells spell power +1 for the rest of the game would be, like, that bad, you know?
Maybe not. Yeah, I don't know. It would be, I mean, obviously just be a matter of balancing it. So.
Yeah, exactly. Just have to be balanced around not being able to be removed once it's activated.
Yeah. No, so, I agree, though. That would be cool. New card types are something that I'm always thinking of, like how they have, like, artifacts in Magic, or... it'd be cool if there was some way to implement, like, other equipment other than weapons in Hearthstone.
They kind of did that a little bit with the legendary weapons. Like, those things are not weapons, per se.
Yeah.
Because they don't function in a way that weapons function in...
But they still take up your one weapon slot. So I don't know. There's a lot that they could do, and it all just is going to make the game more and more complicated if they do it. So who knows if things like that'll ever happen. Yeah,
I mean, at this point, it seems like they're willing to, you know, bend certain rules. Like, we know that they were contemplating the dual wield mechanic. We've seen plenty of mechanics that alter your hero power. So I feel like. And they also almost implemented a different form of resource. Remember the red mana crystals that were going to be a feature from Ungoro, but they decided not to go with it.
I thought that was...
I think it was Ungoro.
I thought it was Mean Streets because of the...
Was it Mean Streets? Oh, yeah. Like the newspapers were like, oh, there's mysterious red mana crystals. I remember reading that. So it must have been MSG, but they did decide against it at the end. But seems like they're willing to kind of bend rules here and there. So
yeah, definitely.
So that was we did some in-depth answers to that question, but that was a good question. So thanks for that, Kuyoya.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I don't know exactly what this little note you put here means for Nepeta.
Oh yeah, I'll go ahead and I can read the next one. From Nepeta asked us. I think they asked us a week ago or a couple weeks ago about playing on our Tuesday stream, playing a couple different games. One of them was Pokemon Desolation, which is a Pokemon. I don't know if it's a ROM hack or just a fan game. I think it's just a fan game. And then the other one is Battle Block Theater. The Pokemon one to me seems like that'd be tough to do because it's Pokemon's so one player. Like, it is such a one player game. I mean, it sounds really cool, but I just don't know how we'd make it work and make it interesting for, you know, 2 people to be streaming that at once. But Battle Block Theater, we get that suggested actually from a lot of people. So if that's a multiplayer game, I don't know if it is, but if it is, that's definitely something we will consider, because now that we're done with Blood and Bacon, we got to figure out what we're doing next. So
yeah.
But yeah, thanks for the suggestions, Nepeta. We're always open to suggestions for, you know, other games we should stream on our Tuesday stream. So
yeah,
let us know if you have any.
Up until when Monster Hunter Worlds is finally released on PC, and then it's just going to be that over and over and over.
It's just going to be that. Yeah.
All right, and we got one more question here from Dougie, which I'll read. He asks, if you could gain the powers of one video game character, whose powers would you choose and why? This is a great question. Do you have any?
So we're both gonna say Kain, right?
Dude, I was definitely gonna say Kain. Like, just definitely gonna say Kain. That is so funny. Right, well. I didn't think it was gonna be that easy for you.
I mean, there's like, I mean, there are characters you could be like, all right, I want to be this person because they're OP, you know. But as far as like a power set that is just like fucking cool, like,
so we got to describe what this is. If you haven't had the genuine pleasure of playing the Legacy of Kain series, which spans from PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2, you should do yourself a favor and find those games and play them because they're awesome. So basically, Kain is the main character as implied. Well, in some of the games he is, as implied by the title Legacy of Kain. The games are Blood Omen, Soul Reaver 2, Blood Omen 2, and Legacy of Kain Defiance. Those are all...
shit, boy, you got the order right and everything.
Yeah. And Kain, I guess we'll call him the protagonist, is he's basically like he's a vampire. These games are about vampires, which is totally like up my alley in the first place. But he's like, he's like the cracked out version of a vampire. He can do whatever the fuck he wants, basically. You've got telekinetic powers. He's basically what I call a hemomancer, because he can literally just like suck the blood from your body from like 10 feet away if he wants to. He's badass. He's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, and this is assuming you get the Soul Reaver.
Right.
Because I don't know if I don't get the Soul Reaver, then I don't know if I want this deal, really.
Well, let's say that you don't get the Soul Reaver, then what would you go with?
Oh, geez. Now I have to think. Okay, so I get the powers. I don't become them. I get the powers.
You just get the powers, yeah.
So, how about
you
Cloud?
Okay, Crowdo-kun.
Yeah. Ability to effortlessly wield a 200-pound sword.
Okay.
Ability to summon magic and monsters.
That sounds
Do I
pretty
get
cool.
materia? I don't know. Do I get materia?
I mean, I would consider materia a part of Cloud's power set because it's like a huge part of the game and his character. Like,
okay, Dougie says power counts for gear and techniques. So we do get the Soul Reaver.
So I guess we're Kain. We're both
So
Kain.
question answered. We both choose Kain. Yeah, no, the Soul Reaver is a blood-drinking sword forged by that the vampires had a human forged for them, and the human's name was Vorador, who was later turned into a vampire. And the sword drinks blood, and the sword also later became haunted by a ravenous soul, and the soul in the sword eats souls. So when you kill people with this sword, you drink their blood and eat their soul. The sword drinks the blood and eats the soul at the same time. It's pretty fucking cool.
You literally destroy their entire existence.
Yeah, they're done for. It can be imbued with lots of elemental powers like fire and lightning and stuff like that. Kain can immolate people with his mind. He can turn into mist. He can turn into bats. He can turn into a werewolf, which is like, for a vampire, you're just like, yeah, fuck your stupid vampire werewolf rules.
No,
I'm just gonna be a wolf.
It's not even anything that they like made up in Legacy of Kain either. That was like a part of like Dracula's original like power set. Like, yeah,
that's vampire lore. Werewolf, that's vampire lore right there.
Yeah, like vampires were werewolves, by the way. So don't listen to this.
He's obviously insane regenerative power, insane strength and toughness, and he's just fucking the telekinetic blood drinking though. That's really the jam right there.
The thing about it's like not even close to one of his most like impressive like strong powers or whatever, but it's very dramatic, you know, like
it just feels so good.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. He puts his hand out and yeah, he just opens his mouth and your blood just funnels from your body into his mouth. Like
it's pretty fucking dope.
More insane than that. But I just last thing on this particular topic, you were saying how he can turn into a flock of bats. So I love games that account for you dying but not dying, like rather than just going to like a hey the game's over screen. They actually like offer some sort of like explanation for how you're still going. and Legacy of Kain does this with both the main characters, Kain, and another one we haven't mentioned called Raziel. So, like, another example of this is Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, where when you fall or something, you just reverse time, and you're like, that didn't happen. So, like, that stuff's cool to me because it's not, like, you just never died. Like, you made it through the game and you didn't die. They do that with Kain in the series by, if you take lethal damage, he turns into a flock of bats and flies back to your last checkpoint. So he never dies while you play through the game.
Yeah.
You always get away. And Raziel,
he's just like, oh, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, exactly. And Raziel does the same thing. He's like a spectral, like, spirit guy, and he can come into, like, the real world, but when he takes lethal damage, he just turns into a spirit again and gets away too. So anyway.
And if he dies in the spirit realm, he just, like, turns into energy and returns to the Elder God.
Exactly.
So
you never, like, you actually can play through that game and feel like you actually did it and never died, which is cool. Like, anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Good games, Legacy of Kain. Y'all play them. Do it.
Yeah, you didn't ask us specifically about Legacy of Kain, but that became a Legacy of Kain rant. So.
Yeah.
They're very good. So
I think
what else we got?
Might have had a question from Tachyon. What are your favorite wild cards?
Oh wow, that's a good question.
I know. I miss Shielded Minibot quite a lot.
Oh yeah, that was like an OG Paladin minion and Muster for Battle. I'm sure you missed that.
Yeah, Muster too. Shielded Minibot was just like, I don't need to even think. I have 2 mana, so he's coming out. Like,
oh yeah, 2 mana, 2/2 Divine Shield. Like what?
That's busted.
Yeah,
and he was a mech, as if that even mattered.
Right.
But he was a mech.
I mean, that thing is like so much. Well, in certain ways, I would say in general, in most ways, it's like so much better than Righteous Protector. But there are certain ways that Righteous Protector is better, like just being a taunt minion. But I don't know, 2 mana, 2/2 Divine Shield. That thing was nuts.
Righteous Protector is the 1 mana 1/1 with taunt.
Yeah.
There's also
Shield.
Argent Protector, who gives something Divine Shield.
Yeah, but he sucks.
I think he's good. The problem with him is you're running your best 1-drops already have Divine Shield. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, what's he ever hitting? Yeah, I've never had success with that card. He, like, seems good on the surface, but never is. I always say this.
I've had some decent, like, if you don't care what you're putting the Divine Shield on, he's pretty good. Like,
yeah.
Like, if you're just like, oh, whatever I just threw out last turn, it's a 1/1 or it's a Silverhand Recruit, I don't care. Give it Divine Shield. That has value in and of itself. Right.
Yeah. I mean, maybe one day he'll get dusted off instead of dusted. Oh.
Oh shit.
I always say this, but it's the truth. Vol'jin, I miss him. I miss Vol'jin. And also, of course, I miss my bae, Sylvanas. I think that I actually feel like she is sorely missed in Hearthstone because she was a great way, like a great thing to throw down on a stacked board that immediately had to make your opponent reconsider just going face all the time. And it wasn't even because she had taunt. It was just like wow, playing Sylvanas into the Bonemare turn, like that changes some things. Like, do you even want a Bonemare now? Like, do you ignore her and go face, or can they remove other things? Like, she made boards complicated very quickly, and was a great way to get back into the game if you were behind on board. So I really miss her.
I wonder if Sylvanas would affect the Warlock oppression in a positive way.
I don't even know, because they'll just end up like sacking it and you steal a Voidwalker and you're like, great.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. But
anyway.
Yeah.
I guess my answer is Shielded Minibot.
Yeah, I guess I'll have to go. I'll say Sylvanas.
I struggle with what, like, I don't know, for whatever reason with Paladin, turn 2 is just not like an easy deck choice for me. Mm-hmm. And ever since Rallying Blade's been a thing, I've wanted to use Argent Protector.
Right.
But Shielded Minibot would just be infinitely better.
Oh yeah, that rolls like 2 mana 2/2 Divine Shield right into Rallying Blade. Like, oh yeah, it'd be perfect.
So, like aesthetically, conceptually, I don't like that he's a stupid robot, but like I wish he was more of a paladin-y thing.
Right. All of Paladin's best cards never end up being like the ones where it's like a noble knight or whatever. It's like fish people or shields up, red alert. Like
here's a Murloc. Yeah.
Oh, poor Paladin.
Whoops. I think that's all the questions we have, though.
I think it is. I think you're correct. So that leaves us with our last and most favoritist segment, the card challenge segment.
Oh, yeah.
So do you want to remind us what was the challenge last week?
Yes, I posed last week's challenge, and it was to design a card, spell, weapon, minion, doesn't matter, has to cost more than 10 mana.
Which I like that idea because they haven't done too much with that yet. We've seen a few cards, but they're all kind of just like really static ways to discount themselves. You know, it's like, how many cards do you have in your hand or whatever. So I think it's a cool challenge. And we got some really creative things. Yeah. So, by the way, just if you're watching for the first time or listening for the first time, what we do for our card challenge is we shoot you guys, our listeners, a prompt to make a card for Hearthstone, of course, that follows just our rules, which are whatever we specify for that week. The card can only create 2 additional cards in like itself and 2 others. And what are the other rules? I think that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah.
And you can submit it as many of you want.
Did you say that?
No, I didn't. You can submit as many submissions as you want to, but we're only going to pick one. And the best way to make those cards is to use hearthcards.net. It makes it into the right format for us, which is PNG, so we don't have to convert it or anything, and it has a transparent background and stuff. And it's really easy to use and make the cards. So if you want to get in on our next week's challenge, I'm going to post that after we look at this week's. So, all right, let's take a look at some cards that cost more than 10 mana.
Prepare yourself for the ultimate test!
All right, so up first from Tachyon Railgun, we have a very interestingly named card. I'm going to attempt it. I feel like it's Equipoise. Equipoise?
Equipoise. That looks right.
So this is an epic druid spell that costs 12 mana, and it costs 1 less for each mana crystal that you have, and gives that much armor when cast. And I think it means as much mana as you spent casting it, or is it as much armor as you have mana crystals?
I think it's as much armor as you have mana crystals.
Okay. So, and then the secondary effect is draw cards equal to half of this card's mana cost. So the first time that you can cast this card is with 6 mana crystals, because you have 6 crystals and it costs 6, which would mean you would gain 6 armor and draw 3 cards for 6.
Which is pretty good.
That's really good. It's like a mini, it's just straight up better than Lay on Hands.
Yeah.
Because you gain 2 less health, but it's the cards that matter.
Yeah.
Then after that point, I'm assuming maybe you're rounding this down, since there's always that question of like, what do you do when it's uneven? I would think that you would have to round this down as far as the number of cards that you draw.
Yeah, I'd imagine it'd be a round down.
But so the other extreme is if you have 10 mana crystals, then this costs 2, gives you 10 armor, and draws you 1 card.
Yeah.
Which is also not bad, because that's a lot of armor.
It's really not. Like, it's cool, like the flexibility of this. And you could even innervate it out or something. I mean, considering it's druid, you're probably going to be playing this earlier than you should anyway, so
that's true too.
I think timing's important, which makes this card interesting.
Yeah, timing's very important. I mean, it also, just straight up depends on when you can cast it and when you draw it. You know, if you draw it when you already have 10 mana crystals, you don't have much choice in the situation. But, you know, it's an interesting thing to think about. Do you keep it off the mulligan to play on 6, to get the card draw? Yeah, I like it. And it has that druid flair of, like, cards being flexible, you know, like branching paths and all the choose 1 or choose 2 mechanics that they have access to.
Oh, yeah. It feels very druid.
It definitely does. Definitely does. Definitely, I like it, and it's always better than other cards though, which is cool. Like if you compare it, 2 mana to gain 10 armor, Warrior has that, but they discount their opponent's entire hand of minions by 2. So pretty crazy. I think it's
stuff.
Individually a very powerful card, but probably just still not even as powerful as Ultimate Infestation. So hey, we'll let it slide. All right, up next from Elecman, we have Ultimate Price, which is a legendary warlock spell that costs 39 mana. Definitely the highest I've seen. So this card, the cost of this card cannot be reduced by any other way than its own. So like the stated way on its text, which the reasoning behind changing this card to say that, Elecman told us, is so you can't abuse it with cards specifically like Naga Sea Witch that makes everything that you play cast 5, which I think we're going to have to look at all of these cards in a vacuum that does not contain Naga Sea Witch, because they're all very abusable with her. But so at least it has that specification, because it costs 1 less for each damage that your hero has taken, so literally not even playable until you have taken 29 damage. Of course, I'm assuming you can heal the damage back, and it still counts that.
Yeah.
That, like, this is still discounted because you have taken the damage. Like, it doesn't, like, go back up in cost.
Yeah. Well, doesn't Molten Giant go back up?
It does, but I'm wondering what the intention was here, because it's going to be incredibly hard to get your Warlock at 1 with 10 mana crystals.
Good.
But either way, if that does happen, maybe Tacky or maybe Elecman can clarify for us. But if you get your Warlock to 1 and you have 10 mana crystals, then you just destroy the enemy hero.
Yeah.
So that's the effect on Ultimate Price. I was thinking that it would still be okay if like you could regain that health.
Yeah, that makes it like very good, and then if you can't regain the health, then that makes it unplayable. Pretty
much, because like you don't have Ice Block or something, right? Like something that helps you to get your health to exactly 1 to play this card. So I'm not sure. I feel like it'd still be okay even if you can like regain the health, but it stays discounted. Because I mean, that's a lot of damage you got to take. You can't always like stem the flow, you know. Once you've taken a lot of damage, like you might just straight up die. So
right. I mean, once you've taken 29, this costs 10.
Exactly. And then you know, if you further decrease it, though, then I mean, you've got a free win the game card. So it's very very difficult effect to balance.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think they'd ever make something like this just because it's too extreme, you know.
It is very extreme, but I liked the idea behind it. It's pretty cool.
Oh, absolutely.
Just like,
it's like door to nothingness in Magic.
Yes, like alternate win conditions are something that I feel like they could explore more, because we don't usually have anything other than like seriously just deplete your opponent to 0. The only thing that's an example now is fatigue. I mean, it's still damage in a way. The only thing that I can think of is the OTK Paladin that uses the hero power from the Death Knight.
Yeah,
that's an interesting like alternate win condition.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I like
but
cards
that's
like
not
this
even
because
like, you know, that's not even something people really use.
You'll see it from time to time on ladder. People like to play that with the Oxmaster Beardo and like getting coins and stuff off Burgly Bully. They can do it.
Good. That's cool.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting. But yeah, mainly I like this card because it is an alternate win condition other than like deal your opponent a bunch of damage. So
yeah,
it's a cool idea. All right, up next from Dougie Fresh, who really likes making cards that make Miracle Rogue great again. We have Temporal Abomination, which is a 13 mana 10/10 that costs 2 less for each card you've played this turn. So he's got to be comboed with your Miracle Turn. And you've got to constantly be thinking about how many cards you have in your hand that you may potentially draw into, and when you need to, like, where's that break-even point where you have to stop discounting him and just play him, because you might not have enough cards to, like, discount him enough to play him after. And if you screw that up, then he goes back to 13 mana. So...
Yeah, this, like... Because, you know, the way minions are in Hearthstone, like, they're prone to dying unexpectedly, and just because you got a 10-10 out with a nice tempo turn doesn't mean it's going to survive to attack. So I don't feel like this is OP because you just, you know, you coordinate a nice miracle turn or a nice combo turn and drop this guy for cheap. Maybe you also dropped a Van Cleef the same turn. But then, you know, he could just die.
An interesting way to look at this, actually, is that he's, like, getting to include 2 more Van Cleefs into your deck, right? Because, like, you basically play him on the same turns that you would play a Van Cleef on, which is where you're going off with a crazy miracle turn. Only he's set at 10-10 and a lot less flexible. You can't, like, you know, throw him out as a 4/4 against Priest if you want to. He's always a 13-mana 10-10, so, yeah, I like it. It's definitely interesting. Very cool.
Yeah, no, I think this is really clever and is like a card that they would print.
Yeah, it does feel, it feels like it fits into the game. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, up next from Anamanga Fan, we have Inferno, which is 25 mana to deal 30 damage, but it reduces the cost of itself by 1 for every card you played this game with Fire, Flame, Blaze, or Pyro in its name. So I think this is actually doable. I think you could have 15 cards in your deck that have Fire, Flame, Blaze, or Pyro in it, especially since you've got, like, Pyros gets to be played 3 times. You got Fireball, you know.
So many minions.
Yeah. Which, that in and of itself just, like, makes it clever to me, because, like, you include this 15 cards at least that have those keywords in it, and then you have, like, those remaining slots to, like, play with what's left. And try to survive. You know, you could
probably, you know, have a decent mana curve. You know, you could put things like Firefly in there.
Yeah, that counts for 2. Firefly into Flame Elemental.
This would be an elemental deck, and Pyros. There's a lot. There's a lot.
Yeah.
So, totally doable, I think.
Definitely doable. Might actually be too doable just because of the cards that do have Fire and Flame in their name that actually produce copies of themselves. I think that's the one thing that's giving me...
What's the thing that Firefly makes? A Flame Elemental?
Flame Elemental. So that counts because Flame's counted. Then you've got... What's the 5/4 elemental called that gives you a Flame Geyser, which also is a card that spawns off of...
Oh.
Steam something. Steam Surger.
Oh, Steam Surger.
So he wouldn't count, but he gives you a Flame Geyser, which gives you a Flame Elemental. So, you know what? The more I think about this, I think it probably needs to be even more mana for it to be...
I don't think it should be more mana. I think it should be less mana and less damage.
You think so? Like, maybe, like, just a discountable Pyroblast, like a 15-mana Pyroblast or something?
Yeah.
Or maybe... No, still, though, even then. Like, it's going to be so easy to discount. Maybe, like, a 20-mana Pyroblast.
Like a 20-mana Pyroblast, yeah.
But still, a really cool idea, though.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah. I didn't even realize how many cards spawn a card themselves that have, like, one of these keywords on it.
Yeah, there's actually a card creation coming up later here that would synergize well with this one.
Yeah, you're right. So let's keep going. Thanks, Anamanga Fan. Up next from I'm a Dragon, we have Ragnaros Elemental Lord.
There you go.
Which is the one that you would definitely play this with. He's an 18-mana 8/8 that costs 1 less for every elemental you summoned this game, which we were just going through how easy it is to summon elementals, and elementals that have flame in the name. And battle cries to change your hero power to deal 8 damage to a random enemy. So it gives you the Ragnaros power like you currently get off of the warrior quest. So
Yeah, I think it's strong, but probably not broken.
I don't know. I mean,
Maybe broken.
Might be broken just because like
Might be
discounting stuff is so easy, but like I also think about like when I'm playing something like a miracle deck that runs arcane giants and I draw them and I'm like, man, that thing's still like 7 mana. I feel like I've cast so many spells. So
Right, and with this guy, you're gonna be like, wow, this thing's still 12 mana.
yeah, so actually, you know, probably not as overpowered as I was once thinking about it, because you always feel like it's going to be easier to do than it actually ends up being. You're like, wow, I'm dying, and this thing still costs 11 mana. Like,
yeah,
help me.
but you know, the 8/8's nice and everything, but changing your hero power to really fucked up stuff, like Die Insect, is good. It's very good.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's worth a lot of mana.
Yeah. So basically, like for both of these things, this and the last one we just saw, like you would build your deck with all these spells that you would use exclusively as removal for your opponent's minions, right? Just to stay in the game. And then you'd close it out with these insane, like damaging hero powers and spells, which would be an interesting way, like an interesting game plan.
So I think we all heard the newest member of our crew.
Yeah, I was just gonna like not mention that, but yeah, that's a burb. That was a burb going on.
We have a parrot on the salty dog.
It's not a parrot. It's some kind of like green majigger thing. I can never remember the name. It's got this crazy name. But it's my girlfriend's bird. His name is Ezio, and he gets loud sometimes. So
he's from Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which is the pirate one. So.
Because that's the most on brand.
Yeah, gotta be on brand.
All right, and this last card here from Kuyoya.
Ah, yes.
We have Blaze It, which is an 11 mana 4/20 Snoop. And it's a druid card because they're most in touch with the earth, of course.
Yes.
And so this card's cost is 0 if it's 4/20 somewhere. So basically, if it's any hour 20, this is free.
Yep.
Or it's 10 if you're currently blazing it. So otherwise, the card's cost is always 11. So it can't be discounted any other way. So either has to be 4/20 somewhere.
Yeah.
Or you have to be smoking to play this.
Your best bet is to queue up for a Hearthstone game around like 11 minutes into the hour, or like 16 minutes into the hour, you know?
Yep. So that you can like
hopefully you draw your Blaze It.
Try to mulligan into that Blaze It.
And then if you don't get it by then, if it passes the 20th minute of the hour, then that's when you light up a doob. And
we definitely don't condone any sort of illicit substance use on the Salty Dog podcast, though.
Whatever, guys. Just be safe. Do drugs. Whatever.
Oh my god. Thanks, Kuyo. Yeah. What a clever idea.
Just be responsible.
All
Alcohol
right.
kills more than any other drug, so that's legal.
That's true. So up last, we always save me and Dookie's card for last. So we have yours up first, Duke.
Okay. So lots of times when I don't have an idea that immediately pops into my head, despite it being my challenge, I take to Wowhead and I look up some actual WoW lore stuff to see what I can make into a card. And I looked up giants, and I remembered Archivon, who was a raid boss from the Wrath of the Lich King era, and everybody called him the Loot Pinata.
Yeah, I remember that.
You'd go in there with a raid, and he was so easy. And you'd just fucking bust his ass, and then epics would pop out, and it was like, yay! So he was the Loot Pinata. So I tried to make him a Loot Pinata. He's a 12 mana 12/12 taunt, and he costs 1 less for each minion your opponents control. So if your opponent has no minions perpetually, you're never playing him. So that's kind of what it's balanced around. If your opponent has a full board, they'll have an easy time dealing with him. But he'll be really cheap. But basically, he has Death Rattle to add 3 unidentified cards to your hand. So I think how I want that to work is the unidentified Maul, Elixir, and Shield all go into your hand.
So it wouldn't be like any combination thereof. It would have to be one of each.
I think I'd want it to be one of each. So mainly so your opponent knows exactly what you have.
Interesting. Okay, well, I actually feel like it's a little more interesting if it can be any combination.
Well, I wanted to like balance it a little more.
Right,
So
I
feel like if your opponent knows what you have,
right,
then they can sort of anticipate it.
Okay.
So yeah, you mentioned earlier making him a 12/12 might have been a little too hefty, but at the same time, it's entirely possible that he will be unplayable. Like if
That's
your
true.
opponent has one minion the whole game, like if you're playing some control deck that has one minion, you will never play him.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
I don't know. I just wanted to make a loot pinata.
No, I actually really like it. Like it gives you the sense that you're getting loot. It makes a lot of sense to me, and it's really cool. I like it.
I was trying to figure out a way to give the loot to your opponent without having this card suck.
I think it's cooler if it goes to you, because like
But-
nobody ends up playing cards like even if they're overstated, that end up giving your opponent something. It's way too much of like a liability. You know, you don't see anyone other than like in arena or something running, you know, the 4/10 taunt that gives your opponent a 2-drop, or the 1-drop that gives your opponent a 1-drop.
Yeah,
You know, stuff like that.
I agree.
Yeah, it's not fun. Or the dragon that gives your opponent coins. Like nobody wants to do that.
that was my thought process when I was designing him. So I decided to give you the loot if he dies.
Yeah,
So.
it's like a way more fun Marin the Fox. You know, like
Yeah, absolutely.
it's just cool. Like you don't know what you're gonna get. It almost like I'm like almost feeling like the sensation of like getting new loot and not knowing what it's gonna be. So
Yeah, that's how. At first, actually, I had him drop 3 random weapons, but then I was like, the unidentified stuff seems a lot more like loot to me.
it's a great idea, and like the unidentified cards like see like minor play, like the Maul like saw some play, but it kind of went back to Rallying Blade, and you know Warrior's unplayable, so you never see the shield, and then the Priest doesn't ever run the elixir, so they're all pretty much not getting used. This is a great way to like get them into the cycle.
Yeah,
you know?
It's like, hey, if they're free, you'll take them, right? You
Yeah,
know?
exactly. Then it's just value, you know, not like a liability in your deck. No, it's a super cool idea. All right, and last up, I have my crazy literal abomination here for Rogue. It's a 12 mana 8/8 Rogue epic minion. It's called Blade Shard Abomination. It says Battle Cry, draw a weapon from your deck and give it +1/+1. Deal damage equal to its attack to all minions. And it costs 1 less for every one of your weapons that has been destroyed this game. So, it synergizes with the Rogue hero power, just incentivizing you to save over weapons. What?
Nepeta just said, "What the heck, Clash?"
You don't like this one? So it incentivizes you to use your hero power more than you would in Rogue, right? Because you just want to dagger up and hold it forever, and like, but now you're like, wait, should I just keep saving over my weapon, break your weapon, and discount this thing's cost? Rogue doesn't have access to stuff like Arcanite Reaper and stuff, so like generally speaking, the highest damage weapon you have access to is either Assassin's Blade or you know, something like Shadow Blade, or whatever you've made your Kingsbane become, which is pretty much what this synergizes with.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that was the first thing that crossed my mind when you showed me this.
Right. So you just like break your Kingsbane and throw it back into your deck, and then draw it back out with him. So yeah.
No, yeah, when you first showed me this, I had to read it like 3 times to be like, all right, so what the fuck does this do? But no, I mean, obviously it's a build around. You know, you don't just auto include this in a deck,
right?
But it works well for Rogue because you're breaking weapons over and over with your hero power. And then of course drawing a bunch of weapons is awesome value and card advantage, but you don't want to put too many weapons in your deck, and drawing a bunch of weapons actually doesn't always help you that much because you only get 1 swing per turn. So it's really like a nice little balancing act between like how many weapons you want to put in your deck. So yeah. I really liked the idea that it was like this thing that was just created from all the shards of like the weapons you've discarded and stuff, and just like comes back and is this vengeful, terrible thing. Yeah. As Nepeta just said, it's Blade Flurry on a body, which is, cool since Blade Flurry got nerfed into the ground. So
Yeah, right. I mean, and Blade Flurry currently does what his battle cry does, which is only hits minions. It used to hit characters, and that's what made it insane.
The enemy character just...
Oh, yeah, just the enemy character.
That card was... I can't believe that card existed.
Yeah. Does the current Blade Flurry hit your own minions or just the enemy's minions?
No, just enemy.
Okay, well, that one hits all of them, so that's one way that it's at least a little balanced. Blade Flurry on a stick. It might need to be a little more than 12 mana. I don't know, but it's hard to strike the balance there.
Yeah, it really... With a card that has, like, mechanics that are that in depth, it's hard to say where the balance is going to land.
You need some extensive testing.
Yes.
All right, so this is that awkward moment where I have to come up with a new challenge for next week, huh?
Oh, gosh. Do you have one?
Why don't you tell them where they can find us?
Golly, I'd love to. Well, first... No, I'll go ahead. So... Oh, God, the indigestion.
Are you all right? Oh, God.
Yeah. So if you'd like to follow us on Twitter, you can follow the podcast for updates at Salty Dog Podcast. If you want to follow myself or Clash individually, you can follow me at Dookie Shed, spelled just like it sounds, and at Clash, KLASHE_HS. We are going to be streaming every Tuesday. We've already done it for several weeks now. Every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Sometimes Hearthstone, sometimes other stuff. If you have any game suggestions for us, make sure you let us know on our Twitter. That's the best way for us to see it. If you're interested in creating cards, as we said before, for the card creation challenge, hearthcards.net is the best place to do that. Makes it super easy. You can type in whatever text you want easily. You can upload whatever picture you want for the card super easily. So that's really the best way. And make sure you like us or give us good ratings wherever you listen to us. If you are listening to the recording or watching the VOD on YouTube or on Twitch, give us good ratings if you like the show. We'd really appreciate it.
We would. And also, while you're at it, if you'd like to throw your hat into the ring for next week's card challenge, I am about to pose it. So, we spent a lot of today's show talking about trying to implement new mechanics into Hearthstone from either other games, or I'm sure there's like tons of ideas out there that haven't even really been explored yet. So, in addition to sending us what your card does this week, send us a little description in your submission on Twitter telling us what your new mechanic does. Since it's not on Hearthstone cards, it's not, there in the text somewhere. So say you have, we'll just call it pump. It's something that Dookie mentioned earlier. So come up with a keyword. In my example, I'm using pump, and in pump creatures, when they attack, they consume all of your available mana crystals to give themselves +X, where X equals the number of mana crystals for that turn. So give us that little description. Give us an example of a card that uses it. So then, like my card would be a 3-mana 2/2 with pump.
Yeah.
So design a new mechanic. Tell us what the mechanic does, and submit a card that uses that mechanic.
Yep, it could range anywhere from recruit to divine shield to charge. Any keyword that shows up in the game and is in boldface text.
Yes,
that's what you're making. Just
death rattle, battle cry, whatever.
Yeah, it can do whatever, but you're designing a new keyword.
Yep, it can be from another game. It could be something that you made up. Whatever you want to do. Minion spell, go for it.
Go for it.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for bearing with us on this 33rd episode of The Salty Dog and helping us get through our rough waters at the beginning.
Yep.
We'll be back on Tuesday and, of course, next week for The Salty Dog Podcast once again. And until then, stay salty, guys.
Stay salty!